Who is saved? Is there anything to be saved from? That's a tough question we'll address today, so here's a riddle for you. If 6 people pass away, one is Buddhist, another Hindu, and the next 3 are Jewish, Christian, Muslim, and the last one is an atheist, who is saved? Who goes to a good place? Who escapes from a bad one? And is there really a good place to go to, or a bad place to escape from? Hello, I'm Dr. James Rowell, and I'll be reflecting on the question of an afterlife today, or whatever you might call the eternal rest, or whatever follows this life. I know what you might be thinking. Who am I to decide? And who am I to answer that question? I admit I'm not an authority. If anyone had that kind of authority, they would be godlike, not an ordinary human like me. So most of us, including me, don't really often bother to answer the big question because we can't answer them. I don't pretend to have the final answer, but for the sake of evaluating the integrity of religious thought, I must at least raise the question. So let's return to the 6 people we are considering: the Buddhist, Hindu, Jew, Christian, Muslim, and atheist. Now, not all of them actually believe in a soul or afterlife. Buddhists, for example, believe in attaining nirvana. Nirvana is a state which escapes the attachments that cause the burdens and suffering of this world and causes us to reincarnate. In short, it escapes reincarnation. That belief has not traditionally involved a soul or a heaven, however. The atheist would be most concerned about what lies beneath his feet, life here and now, because he doesn't believe that a life beyond the clouds really exists. Let us suppose for a moment that it does exist, that there is something beyond the veil of our mortal lives. What that is, we cannot know for sure. So, who gets saved? What happens? If the Buddhist is right, we face reincarnation. He may have the edge in escaping it and achieving nirvana. But if the Buddhist was wrong and the Christian or Muslim were right about religion, do both the Buddhist and the atheist go to hell because they didn't have the correct views? What about the Hindu or the Jew? If it were the Hindu or the Jew that were in fact correct, what happens to the others? Now, the crux of the problem is that while we may have a choice about beliefs and would like to make the right one, for many of us that choice really isn't so infinite or free as we might imagine. Even if we grow up in a free world, the pressures of being born into a tradition, reared and raised in that tradition or perspective, whatever it might be, and simply taking after one's parents are immensely strong. Why wouldn't we adapt the ideas surrounding us if they seemed good to us or to our parents? Would a cosmic God blame someone for adopting a religion or even an atheistic perspective that seemed compelling or true to them, on which they were reared and raised? We are at least in part products of our past, no doubt, and should a judging God condemn that person because they conform to local customs? Possibly, but that would seem very harsh. Would you do the same? Wouldn't God, knowing that people tend to conform to the times and places in which they are raised, take some account of that? And rather than looking to the particular rituals or the religion we professed, look at the heart and moral core of a person. If all 6 of our people were moral, responsible, and law-abiding persons who intended no injury and indeed really did little injury, shouldn't this matter? This gets to a very old problem in religion. Is it the professed faith which saves you, or the moral action which is presumed to follow from it? It is hard to imagine a person who has been awful and immoral all their lives, and then at the end of their life, on their deathbed, makes a cheap confession of faith which saves them. There seems to be a greater litmus test needed than the words which pass from your lips. What was at the core of that person's mind and heart? Who was he or she beneath all the outer trappings and claims? Faith can drive actions, but the professed faith must seriously be reflected in word and deed, mustn't it? Now, some of the 6 people believed in an immortal soul. which may get to heaven or get them closer to a paradise nearer God. Would they get there because they were relatively good persons, morally speaking? Or would any be denied for belonging to the wrong religion or viewpoint? Couldn't that choice, wrong as it may have been, be forgiven because there are so many different religions and perspectives to choose from? And it is easiest to choose the closest, most sensible view. It is my sincere hopes that a loving view, religious or otherwise, would bring down barriers and not raise them. I could understand a God who even forgave an atheist because there are considerable doubts raised in living our life. And indeed, what if the atheist did more good for the world than a false believer? For the most part, I refrain from answering the question about final judgment, but I can't ignore it. From my perspective, I have thought that if there is a religious truth or an eternal hereafter, it must be our moral core and innermost hearts and minds that matter most. Undoubtedly, our professed faith will condition that. Rituals and religions vary, but concern for doing what is right and good, that should unite us. I cannot speak from a divine perspective because I'm not God. Moral perspectives are immediate and direct, and I tend to focus on them. Divine claims or perspectives should not be ignored, I think, but moral ones are more tangible. It is my sincere hope that people from all religions and perspectives across the world might have a share in the eternal hereafter, or whatever waits beyond our earthly life. If there is nothing there, then observing a better morality, we might make the world a better place. So, who is saved from eternal death or hell or some other fate? I hope as many of us across the globe as possible, and if not, at least we may make this world a better place. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please like and subscribe, and keep watching for the next one.